Picture a small tub of olive oil, spread sitting proudly on your kitchen bench. The label shows a sun-drenched Mediterranean grove, silver green leaves, a single perfect olive branch. Turn it over, and the story changes completely. Olive oil often sits well behind refined canola, palm, and sunflower oils on the ingredient list. That's not illegal, it's not even hidden. It's just not what the front of the pack wants you to see first. Australia has some of the strictest food safety rules in the world, and almost everything on supermarket shelves is completely safe to eat. But safe and honest looking are two very different things. Tonight, we're opening 15 everyday Australian products, snacks, spreads, sauces and staples, and checking what's actually inside them against what the packaging is quietly asking you to imagine. By the end, you'll know exactly what to flip over and read before it goes in your trolley. Before we start counting down, let's define our terms because synthetic gets thrown around loosely online. In this video, synthetic doesn't mean poisonous, and it doesn't mean illegal. We're using it to describe ingredients that have been isolated, fractionated, or chemically engineered in a factory to imitate a whole food characteristic, a nature-identical flavor compound, built to taste like real fruit, a texturizing gum pulled from an industrial process rather than a farm, a refined oil blend standing in for a named premium ingredient. Every one of these additives has gone through a safety assessment under the Food Standards Code, overseen by Food Standards Australia, New Zealand, or FSANZ. So this isn't a video about danger, it's about the gap between the story on the front of the pack and the ingredient panel on the back. We ranked these 15 products using 4 measures: how big that visual gap is, how often Australians actually buy the product, how much you're paying compared to what's really inside, and how clearly the ingredient list confirms it. Let's start at number 15. Number 15 4ERT/snack straps. The packaging shows a burst of strawberries and mango, juice practically dripping off the wrapper. Flip it over and real fruit is usually well down the ingredient list, behind glucose syrup and fruit puree concentrate, with pectin holding the strip together and citric or malic acid supplying that sharp fruity tang without needing much actual fruit at all. Legally, these sit in the confectionery or fruit snack category, not the fresh produce one, and every ingredient is disclosed. The takeaway for parents is simple. Check the percentage of fruit puree on the back panel before assuming a chewy strip is doing the same job as an actual piece of fruit. Number 14, table honey blends. The label leans hard on golden honeycomb imagery and words like pure and natural. But budget-friendly blended honey sold across major chains often list more than one sweetener source, imported syrups, rice malt, or corn-derived glucose sitting alongside the honey itself, and the word blend tucked into the small print is doing a lot of legal work. This matters beyond your toast. It puts pressure on local apiarists who can't compete with the price of syrup stretched into a jar labeled honey. It's completely legal, provided the blend is disclosed, but it's not what most shoppers picture when they see a bear-shaped bottle. Look specifically for single origin claims or a clear 100% Australian honey statement, not just the word honey on its own. Number 13. flavoured FSANZ porridge sachets. Maple trees, porridge sachets. Maple trees and steaming bowls of oats dominate the box art, promising a wholesome start to the day. The nutrition panel tells a different story. Some flavoured sachets carry a substantial share of their weight in added sugar, bulked out with maltodextrin and topped off with a nature-identical maple or berry flavour built to mimic the real thing without using much of it. Oats themselves are still a genuine whole grain. It's the processing and the flavour dressing that create the health halo. If your porridge tastes more like dessert than breakfast, that's a clue. Buy plain rolled oats and add real fruit or a drizzle of honey yourself. Number 12. Imitation seafood sticks. Surimi, the crab-style pieces sitting in sushi rolls and seafood salads across the country. This product, known as surimi, starts as minced white fish, often pollock or whiting, that's washed repeatedly to strip out flavour and colour, then rebuilt using modified starch, egg white, sorbitol and artificial crab flavouring, finished with a streak of red dye to sell the crab illusion. There's essentially no actual crab meat involved. It's clearly labelled as imitation or crab style on close inspection, and it remains a genuinely affordable protein option. The issue is purely the marketing language, creating an impression of crustacean meat it was never built to deliver. Check the ingredient list. The first word should tell you it's fish, not shellfish. Number 11. Gone want slat, silly silads croutons, dressed up with names like wood-fired garlic or Tuscan parmesan. Behind the fancy naming, many commercial croutons start as offcuts from commercial bread production, coated in fractionated vegetable oil, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, and powdered flavorings designed to deliver an intense hit that covers up a fairly plain base. It's a convenient pantry item, but you're paying a serious markup for stale bread and seasoning. A homemade batch, cubed leftover bread, a splash of real olive oil, 10 minutes in the oven, gives you the same crunch without the flavor powder bill. Number 10. Shelf-stable creamy dressings. Your stable creamies and your Caesar, your ranch, your green goddess, all sitting unrefrigerated on the aisle shelf for months at a time. The label shows fresh garlic, cracked pepper, a free-range egg. The ingredient panel usually leads with cheap canola or soybean oil, emulsified using modified cornstarch, xanthan gum, and phosphoric acid, with artificial dairy notes standing in for real buttermilk or parmesan. None of that is unsafe. It's simply what's required to keep an oil and egg-style dressing stable and pourable at room temperature for a long shelf life. A freshly whisked dressing made in a professional kitchen or your own would separate within hours without those stabilizers. If you want something closer to the real thing, look in the refrigerated section for short, recognizable ingredient lists. Number 9. Flavoured wabe. The wad, particularly the vanilla and berry swirl varieties, marketed squarely as a health food. The fruit swirl running through the base is frequently built from apple puree concentrate, sugar syrup, and a coloring agent like beetroot extract, rather than the berries pictured on the tub, and thickeners such as modified starch or gelatine give a low-fat base its rich, spoonable texture. Per 100 grams, some flavoured yogurts carry sugar levels close to what you'd find in a scoop of ice cream. A genuinely useful thing to check next time you're standing in the dairy aisle. None of this makes yogurt bad. Plain, natural, or Greek yogurt remains a genuinely high-protein whole food. The manipulation happens specifically in the flavoured fruit swirl versions. The simplest fix, buy it plain and add real fruit and a touch of honey yourself. Number 8. Truffle oil, one of the more surprising entries on this list. Despite the price tag and the earthy, luxurious branding, the overwhelming majority of commercial truffle oil on Australian shelves contains no truffle at all. Instead, it's cheap olive or grapeseed oil infused with a lab-synthesized aroma compound, commonly 2,4-dithiopentane, engineered specifically to mimic the smell of real truffle. Food scientists have documented this for years. It isn't a conspiracy theory. It's standard practice in the flavor industry, and manufacturers usually disclose truffle aroma or truffle flavoring in the fine print, which keeps it entirely legal. If you want the genuine article, you're looking for actual truffle pieces listed on the label, not a flavor or aroma descriptor standing in for them. Number 7. Shelf-stable pasta salsa sold in jars decorated with rustic Italian imagery and the promise of a non-secret recipe. To survive years at room temperature, these sauces typically rely on reconstituted tomato paste rather than whole tomatoes, citric acid to control pH, added sugar to balance out that acidity, and sometimes modified starch or vegetable oil, standing in for the richness a slow-simmered olive oil base would normally provide. That's why a lot of jarred sauce tastes noticeably sweeter and flatter than something simmered at home. It's a genuinely convenient pantry staple, and there's nothing unsafe about it. It's just a different product from a fresh, reduced tomato sauce priced closer to a gourmet one. Check whether the base is tomato paste or whole crushed tomatoes, and scan for added sugar sitting near the top of the list. Number 6. Some plant-based. Best mites, the sliced vegan chicken and faux ham, increasingly common in health-conscious lunchboxes. Marketed with words like clean, sustainable, and plant-powered, these products are, ingredient for ingredient, some of the most heavily processed items on this entire list. A typical slice is built from isolated soy or pea protein, methyl cellulose acting as a synthetic binding gum, coconut oil for mouthfeel, and a collection of coloring and flavoring agents designed to replicate the appearance and taste of cured meat. That's the paradox worth sitting with. A product positioned as the clean alternative can carry a longer, more industrially engineered ingredient list than the traditional small goods it's replacing. None of this erases the genuine ethical or environmental case for plant-based eating. It just means these products belong in the same processed occasional item category as the deli meats they're standing in for, not in the whole food column. Number 5 long life orange juice tin apple juice, sitting in the refrigerated case, are labelled not from concentrate, which most shoppers reasonably read as freshly squeezed. The reality of large-scale juice production is less romantic. To supply juice year-round, manufacturers commonly store it in enormous deoxygenated holding tanks for extended periods, sometimes close to a year, a process that strips out the natural aroma almost entirely. To make the juice taste fresh again once it's packaged, the industry adds back-engineered flavour packs, built from chemical fractions extracted from orange peel and pulp during processing. This is a well-documented and fully legal practice across the global juice industry, not a specific Australian scandal, and the juice itself remains genuinely fruit-derived and safe. What it challenges is the mental image on the carton, a grove, a hand-squeezed orange, versus a supply chain built around industrial storage and flavour restoration. If that gap bothers you, cold-pressed juice with a short shelf life and a clear pressing date is the closer match to what the packaging is implying. Number 4 instant stock cubes and gravy powders, budget beef and dravy powders. Budget beef and chicken cubes frequently contain little to no actual animal extract. Instead, the base is usually salt, hydrogenated palm oil, maltodextrin, yeast extract, and hydrolyzed vegetable protein, with caramel coloring added for that familiar brown broth look. Flavor enhancers like MSG or disodium inosinate do the heavy lifting, tricking your palate into reading the mixture as a rich, slow-cooked stock. None of these additives are dangerous at normal cooking amounts. MSG in particular has been repeatedly cleared by food safety authorities despite its reputation. But a stock cube isn't giving you the collagen, minerals, or depth of a real bone broth. And it's worth knowing that before you build a soup around it. The giveaway is the ingredient order. If salt or maltodextrin leads the list, you're essentially paying for seasoned salt. Number 3, dairy-free cheese blocks. For anyone managing a dairy allergy or intolerance, these products are genuinely essential, which is exactly why it's worth understanding what's actually in them. A typical sliceable vegan cheese is built primarily from refined coconut oil and modified potato or tapioca starch, with beta-carotene supplying the color and calcium citrate and emulsifying salts holding the texture together. There's no dairy protein, no curd, and often almost no protein at all. A very different nutritional profile from the cheddar or mozzarella it's standing in for on the shelf. That's not a criticism of the product's purpose, it's simply a reminder not to treat it as a like-for-like nutritional swap. Compare the fat and protein columns on a dairy-free block against a dairy one, and the difference is usually stark, worth knowing before you build a meal plan around it. Number 2, high-protein meal bars stacked near supermarket checkouts, wrapped in bold fitness language, clean fuel, max protein, all natural. Underneath the branding, many of these bars are dense, engineered matrices built from soy protein isolate or whey powder, polyextrose acting as a synthetic fiber source, glycerol keeping the bar soft on the shelf for months, and sugar alcohols like maltitol or sweeteners like sucralose, providing sweetness without the sugar count. None of these ingredients are unsafe in normal amounts, though sugar alcohols can cause digestive discomfort for some people in larger doses, worth knowing before working through a box in a day. The bigger point is nutritional. A bar engineered to hold together for a year on a shelf is a fundamentally different food from a boiled egg or a handful of nuts, even when the protein numbers on the front look similar. If the ingredient list reads more like a chemistry class than a kitchen, it's reasonable to treat the bar as a supplement, not a meal. So, out of the 14 we've covered, which one caught you out? Tell us below and subscribe, because the final item is a pantry staple bought weekly by millions of Australians, and it might be the biggest illusion yet. Number 1, the UL Dinat Synthetic Sprayed, the Supercarcia Case, the supermarket olive oil spread, and this is the anchor case for a reason. Walk down any Australian spread aisle and you'll see tubs wrapped in green banners, olive branches, and words like olive oil spread or heart smart alternative, clearly designed to sit visually alongside real olive oil and real butter. Turn the tub over though, and olive oil is frequently one of the smaller percentage ingredients rather than the main one. The bulk of the product is usually a refined blend of canola, palm, and sunflower oils, emulsified with water, stabilized with a preservative such as potassium sorbate, colored with beta-carotene, and finished with an artificial butter flavoring to deliver that familiar dairy richness. Under Australian food labelling law, this is entirely permitted, provided the percentage of the named characterising ingredient, olive oil in this case, is disclosed somewhere on the pack. That's the mechanism worth understanding. The law doesn't require the front of the pack to be an honest summary of the ingredient list, or leave it the true percentage exists somewhere on the packaging for anyone who goes looking for it. Most shoppers never do, which is precisely the gap this entire video has been circling. You're not being lied to in a legal sense. You're being sold an impression, a Mediterranean grove, a wedge of golden olive, built on top of the base that's mostly refined seed oil, at a price that reflects the story rather than the ingredient cost. Of everything on this list, this is the clearest example of how far front-of-pack marketing can legally travel from what's actually inside the tub. And it's the single habit worth building before your next shop. Find the percentage and read it before the picture convinces you otherwise. So here's a practical 5-point system you can start using on your very next shop, no memorizing required. First, ignore the front of the pack entirely while you're deciding. A farm scene, a cow, an olive branch, none of it is a legal guarantee of what's inside. Treat it as advertising, because that's exactly what it is. Second, remember that ingredients are listed in descending order by weight. Whatever sits first on that list, here's what you're mostly buying, whether that's water, sugar, or a refined oil. Third, hunt for the percentage of the characterizing ingredient, the actual honey, the actual olive oil, the actual fruit, which Australian labelling law generally requires to be disclosed somewhere on the pack once a product is named after that ingredient. Fourth, get familiar with the small handful of common stabilizers and gums that show up again and again on this list. Things like modified starch, xanthan gum, methylcellulose and maltodextrin. Spotting them doesn't mean a product is bad, but it does tell you it's engineered for shelf life or texture rather than built from a simple recipe. And fifth, check the country of origin bar and the ingredient percentage it displays, particularly for anything positioned as a local or premium product, since that bar will tell you exactly how much of what you're buying is genuinely Australian. None of this takes long once it becomes a habit. Most of it is a 5-second glance at the back of a pack before it goes in the trolley. But it hands the decision back to you instead of to whoever designed the label. None of this is a reason to feel tricked every time you walk into a supermarket. And it's definitely not a reason to panic about your pantry. Everything we've covered today is legal, and in almost every case, it's safe. What's changed is simply how you'll read a label from here, understanding that the front of a pack is built to sell you a feeling, while the real information about what you're buying almost always lives around the back in smaller print, waiting to be checked. That's not paranoia, that's just informed shopping. Next time, we're turning this same lens on home brands versus name brands to see exactly how much of the price difference is genuinely about the product, so let us know in the comments which supermarket you want us to start with.